I need to split the fraction 1 over x times 3x minus 1 squared into three fractions a over x plus b over 3x minus 1 plus c over 3x minus 1 squared. So first focusing on that a over x. Comparing that to the denominator on the left-hand side. The left-hand side has already got an x, but I don't have the 3x minus 1 squared. So that's what I have to multiply my a over x by. Obviously, if I times the denominator by 3x minus 1, I have to times the numerator by 3x minus 1 squared. Next, let's focus on the b over 3x minus 1. I've already got one of the 3x minus 1 squareds from the denominator. So I'm going to need another one of those. So I'm going to need to multiply by 3x minus 1 so that I have a 3x minus 1 squared on the denominator. I also need this x on the denominator as well. So I'm also going to multiply top and bottom by x. Next, let's move on to the c over 3x minus 1 all squared. So I've already got the 3x minus 1 squared, but I don't have the x. So I am just going to multiply top and bottom of my fraction by x. I have now got a common denominator of x times 3x minus 1 squared. On my numerator, I will have a times 3x minus 1 squared plus b times x times 3x minus 1 plus c times x. This is the same thing as my f of x. Therefore, my numerator here, all of this on the top here, would have to equal 1. So let me write that over on the right-hand side here. Okay, so now I just need to figure out what a, b and c are. Several different ways you can do this. I am going to use a substitution because I noticed that if I let x be 0, if I consider the special case when x is 0, then that means that this term here would be 0. Therefore, all of this would be 0. And I wouldn't need to worry about the b, and I'd be able to work out the a easily. Also notice that if x is 0, this term is 0. So because I noticed that I've got an x here and here, that means that I can just say when x equals 0, the first term, well, if x was 0 here, then 3x would be 0. Minus 1 squared will be plus 1. So all of this will just turn to plus 1. Multiplied by the a is a. And as I said before, when x is 0, this is 0. So therefore all of that's 0 and I don't need to worry about it. And when x is 0, this is 0 as well. So by making x 0, I've got a really simple equation where I find that a is 1. So I know that a is 1. Now let's move on to figuring out what b and c are. Right, I am now going to use the substitution, the special case when x is 1/3. And the reason I've picked 1/3 is because that is going to make this bit here become 0. 3 times 1/3 minus 1 is 0. So that means that a times 0 is 0. All of this term here is going to be 0. So 0 plus. Now when I substitute 1/3 in here, this is also going to be 0. 3 times 1/3 minus 1 is 0. So again, all of this second term will be 0. And then finally, when I substitute 1/3 into the c term, I'll get 1/3 times c. And so now I've got the very easy equation, 1/3 of c is 1, therefore c is 3. So far I have figured out that a is 1 and c is 3. I don't know what b is yet. And my previous trick of using a substitution, there is no other options I've got to help me work out b. There's no value of x here that I can substitute that would make the a term and the c term disappear that wouldn't make the b term disappear. So I need to use a different technique. Well, the technique I'm going to use is comparing coefficients. So comparing coefficients. And what that basically means is I'm going to expand the brackets, but I'm not going to expand all of them. I'm only going to expand some of them, and I'm just going to look at the x squared parts of them. Because I know that a is 1 now, and I know that c is 3 now. So let's just think what would happen if I expanded out all of this. How many x squareds would I have? Well, the first bracket, if I expanded this, I'd have 3x times 3x, which would be 9x squared, multiplied by the 1 at the front. So I'd have 9x squared. Then looking at the next term, the b term here, if I expanded this, I would have x times 3x is 3x squared, multiplied by the b is 3b x squared. So I would have 3b x squared. So that's the coefficient of x squared there. Let's continue looking along. The next term here, well, there isn't any x squareds there, so I don't need to worry about that. On the right hand side, well, again, there's no x squareds there. So there's 0 x squareds on the right hand side. So by comparing coefficients, by expanding the brackets and just looking at the x squared parts, I've managed to see that 3b has to equal minus 9, therefore b has to equal minus 3. And so my final answer is that f of x is equal to 1 over x, because my a was 1, minus 3 over 3x minus 1, because my b was minus 3, plus 3 over 3x minus 1 squared, because my c was 3.